do. John Whittle joining us now with the BigSpur.com after covering this weekend's victory over the Kentucky Wildcats, and it is rivalry week. John, quick take here. What is in your mind, the best rivalry in college football?
That's a great question. I don't know. There's so many good ones. I love the Egg Bowl, part of it being because it's on Thanksgiving. There's always some kind of drama there, right? Obviously, South Carolina, Clemson. I don't know. There's so many I enjoy watching. Ohio State, Michigan's one I enjoy watching. Those would probably be my group right there.
What about Army Navy?
Yeah. My grandfather was Navy, so I usually pull for them. Army, I like their uniforms a little better usually, but I love I love the just kind of the pageantry of it all, the showcase of it all.
Yeah.
So that's always fun to watch a little bit down the road.
It's on the week. There's no other football either.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
And it's like we have the guy that owns the tavern Nat and I go to. One of the owners it went to Navy and was actually on the '84 Navy team that beat Carolina. So I get a load of crap from him every single time I see him because he was the defensive back on that team that ruined Carolina's season. But he goes all out, man, and he'll get like a bunch of Navy gear, and I got like 3 Navy sweatshirts and stuff. He's a converter. He's an evangelist, if you will, for the midshipmen. And so we watch it every year up there with our friends, and I've gotten into it a lot more lately. And John, you hit the Egg Bowl. People don't understand the hatred.
Yeah.
Those two schools, they don't. That's what they got. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, they really. Mississippi State's been to one SEC championship game ever in '98, and Ole Miss has never made it. But that Egg Bowl, that's the game in that state, and they absolutely cannot stand one another.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. I love the way you phrase that too. What else do they have there? What else is there in Mississippi to like that? That's it. I mean, that's a big deal.
Dove and duck hunting, and they have some nice casinos along the coast. But that's
and a bunch of lawyers.
Well, that's true.
I've read all the John Grisham novels.
I think I agree with you but see, here's the thing though. If you ask and we'll get into Carolina, but if you ask that question to essentially anybody above the Mason-Dixon line that's in sports media, or it's just a fan, but if you're in sports media and you cover it, we pay attention, right? That's part of the gig. You will. I don't even know if the word rarely is correct. I don't know that anybody who covers sports above the Mason-Dixon line would ever they'd probably name 20 rivalries before they ever got to Ole Miss and Mississippi State. But we understand it because we're from down here where all of, outside of Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, like for the longest time, all these states, that's all that they had. There was a time where the Tennessee Titans didn't exist, right? There was a time where it was only college football, and that's all you had. So, we get it down here, but I think if you ask that same question to somebody in Ohio or somebody who's covering college football in New York or Wisconsin or something like that, they'll never say the Egg Bowl because they don't understand being in a state that doesn't have anything except for that, like you were saying, JC. Okay.
Well said.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Stupid.
I was looking for a pat on the back, and JC went cold.
No, I was trying to unmute I got my mic a little better situated today, so I don't look like I'm always looking down. And
yeah,
but it's cramped for my space, so to get my mouse to unmute it, I guess press release I had to copy and paste. Anyway, I was working, and I apologize for that. But no, you're absolutely right. But that's what's made the great rivalries in the South. That's what the Iron Bowl is what it is. And if you had to ask me, I'd say I'd rank Iron Bowl 1, Ohio State, Michigan 2, But the Egg Bowl would be in my top 5. And another one in my top 5 nobody talks about that's out of our region is Oregon and Washington. I always thought, well, the Apple Cup and the Civil War, that's Washington State. And by the way, kudos for those athletic departments. They signed a deal. They're going to keep playing, even with Washington going to the Big Ten. So I respect the hell out of that. And then, but you think the Beavers and Duck, the in-state, that's a miniature Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and Washington. They hate. I mean, it's like, my buddy that's a Ducks fan, he's like, he's like, I don't like the Beavers at all, but I freaking hate UW. And he didn't say freaking. He's like, I hate UW. So I don't know what.
Is your buddy a Duck?
He's a Duck. Justin Hopkins.
You sounded like an actual Duck.
Well, that's how they talk out there in Oregon. They don't have. They're not like, hey y'all, welcome to Oregon.
You sounded like Donald there.
Nah, and the Duck is probably one of my favorite mascots. When he rolled on the field on the back of a Harley Davidson this year with sunglasses and a cowboy hat on because he's making fun of Deion Sanders in that game. I was it. He wins mascot of all time. He's the GOAT. But look, it's
we need more John Whittle, not less. More John Whittle.
Yeah, more John Whittle. We need more John. So that's I'll shut up now.
That was just funny. That caught me off guard because you thought he meant like an actual Oregon Duck. He meant the actual, like a duck.
Like an animal.
Quacks and the whole
like Peking duck. You guys ever had that? It's interesting. That's all I'll say.
That was very, very well done. More good news. I mentioned Xavier Legette just a little while ago. More good news from the Steve Fink University of South Carolina inbox here. Jordan Strawn named the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week by the league. One thing we won't be doing today is waiting on kick times because our final kick time has already been announced at 7:30 coming up under the lights of Williams-Brice Stadium. Under the lights this past weekend, though, John, it was the Gamecock defense that got it done. For the first time all year, they carried the football team to a win.
Yeah, it was kind of nice to see. That's a couple of weeks in a row of nice defensive performances. They certainly did their job against Vandy last week too. But yeah, like absolutely, and they did it against a good wide receiving core. They did it against a really good running back. They did it against a decent offensive lineman or a decent offensive line. Devin Leary missed on some balls early. Some deep balls early, but I thought that the defense played really well throughout, and it's not like Kentucky has hit on a lot of those deep passes this year. They're not a very explosive passing game, even though they do have good receivers. Leary, for whatever reason, just hasn't fit in there well and hasn't really hit those shots. So it was certainly a great defensive performance, and as you said, exactly why South Carolina won.
I thought Shane said this on Saturday, and he hit the nail on the head. They needed, in a game like that, like when you're having a difficult time scoring, big atmosphere, good opponent, Kentucky. You need your stars to be stars. And while at the end of the defensive numbers were there, the offensive numbers overall weren't. But at the end of the day, when you go look at the stat line tells a story this week. Spencer Rattler, Xavier Legette, Jordan Strawn, Nicky Mawari, Tonka Hemingway. These are your best players, and you needed them to be their best, and they were.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's older guys too. In that group, it's not just best, but it's old guys as well. And they're some of those guys are coming to the end of their career, and they want to keep playing. And Shane has said it all along that it's a close team and it's a good group, and they've got good culture over there, and they keep playing hard, and they have all season. They haven't always played well, but you can't look out there and see give up in them at any point. So they're fighting to get to a bowl game, and I think they've done a nice job, as you mentioned, like Nicky Mawari stepping up and playing well. Like the last couple of weeks, you can kind of see it against Vanderbilt, and he started to play a little bit better the last few weeks and looked kind of like the guy that was a freshman All-American a year ago, and we didn't see that early on or even midway through the season. I know injury was part of it at least early on, but man, he's been good the last few weeks, and certainly going to need that to continue to be the case here this coming week.
Yeah, we're going to get to the Tigers here in just a second. Now it's 2 in a row over Kentucky. It's their 20th all-time win against the Wildcats, or 20-14-1. This series has shifted back into the Gamecocks' favor. John, when you look at Kentucky in your eyes, what type of win was that for Carolina? Essentially, how good do you think they were coming into the game, Kentucky's football team this year in 2023? I know they started out hot, but they've certainly had their issues. They've certainly had their issues since then. And like, it is rivalry week, but this is going to be the one team that the Gamecocks play moving forward in the SEC if they go to a 1-7 model. Even if they're in a 3-6, right, JC, they're still going to play Kentucky every year, according to what we know, right? So,
yeah, Kentucky and Carolina are going to play every year. No matter
so
what.
isn't this a rivalry? I mean, this is like a. I know
It's the thing.
it's a rivalry. Like, this is what it is. Kentucky. Did anybody see the Kentucky sports radio guys on the field crying after the game on Saturday night? That's embarrassing. Like, this means something to them. You know, this means something to that whole state. And I just want to get you to assess that as well.
Somebody on our message board called him Blue Vandy. that made me really laugh. South Carolina for the longest time treated Kentucky like Blue Vandy, and Kentucky is flipped it a little bit here lately. Now that's 2 in a row for the Gamecocks, and I think you're starting to maybe see it flip back and tilt into South Carolina's favor a little bit. But Kentucky, when they've won all these games recently, they've been a more physical football team than South Carolina has, and I don't know why that's been the case that consistently. I mean, they pride themselves on line play, which is a good thing in the SEC, obviously, and they've been the more physical team. The last 2 years, certainly last year, not so much. South Carolina had really flipped that. Last season's Kentucky team just wasn't to their identity. This year was a lot closer, and I thought it was a much better battle along the line of scrimmage between the teams. But South Carolina is going to have to continue to bring the physicality when they play Kentucky, because that's what Mark Stoops is about. That's why they win the games that they do. But Kentucky's also they've lost a lot here in a row. That's now 5 out of 6. But at the same time, they've given some teams some good games. I mean, they did get run over by Georgia, and they did get run over by Alabama. They gave Missouri a really good game. I believe they were in the lead going into the fourth quarter in that one, and then didn't hang on. So, I don't think that they're a better team than South Carolina. I think they're a decent football team that South Carolina made more plays in, and they South Carolina. I see the Kentucky folks talking about all their mistakes and so forth. South Carolina left plays out there on the field too. They forced 3 turnovers. They could have easily had a couple of pick sixes as well. I mean, that could have easily been a 5 or 6 turnover game there for the Wildcats.
You just said it, and I'm glad you said it. I've said the same thing. Look, the game. This is my opinion, and nobody cares in the Bluegrass State. But
yeah, we do. You got a 3-hour radio show. We care about you
in the Bluegrass State, not
oh.
here. Everybody cares here, of course. I think that after watching those 2 teams play the other night, there are a lot of similarities. Neither one of them are an elite program in the SEC. The Gamecocks have a better football team. I thought it was pretty clear. I agree with what you said. I think that they probably should have beat them by more than 3. Like those cats that were, all boogered up about how'd they lose. Oh my God. Well, I'll tell you how you lost, because you got beat. That's how you lost. But South Carolina easily should have probably put another couple of touchdowns on the board. Heck, they would have had one more if it wasn't for a holding penalty that they didn't need to have on the 2-yard line or wherever that was. So I just, the quarterback in Columbia is better. I think the running backs are pretty comparable. I'll be honest with you. Ray Davis had a better night, but he's also got a better front to run behind. The wide receivers in Columbia are better. The tight ends are better. The secondary's better. I don't know.
Secondary, yeah.
I mean, do we need to keep going? So, anyways,
Kentucky's, yeah. Anytime you have a coach that's been there for a long, long time, they're going to always play, no matter. They're going to play a certain way. Like I said, Spiderweb team, and they came in and survived the early flurry, came back, took the lead, and that's kind of what they do, and they've been successful doing it. But at the same time, and you're listening to the KSR guys too, and whatever. I mean, they probably you had to know if you're Kentucky that success against South Carolina is not going to last forever, because it's just like when Carolina was beating Florida 4 out of 5 years. You knew it wasn't going to last. Florida's, for the most part, a better job, and there's job program team. Okay, South Carolina's a better job than Kentucky. Always has been, always will be. It's tough up there. You got to fight basketball. You got to fight the fact that there's only like 3 or 4 guys that can even step foot on the field in the SEC in your state every year. And yeah, they do a good job of getting the second tier out of Ohio and building lines of scrimmage. They're very resourceful. They're good evaluators. They get good players. They work the portal well. But it is a program with a ceiling that is much, much lower than South Carolina ever will be. And it doesn't matter, that they've won 7. Stoops is 7-4 now against the Gamecocks. Fine. Steve Spurrier had a winning record against a lot of teams when he was here. So you're at your peak. You've enjoyed it for a while. Now the Gamecocks have won 3 out of 5, and get ready to. I think Beamer is going to do his best to continue to extend this because, like you did point out, JB, the schedule is going to start flipping every season, starting next year when it looks like they play in the SEC West. But Kentucky's always they're going to be constant as the Northern Star. Yeah. And so you must beat the Wildcats.
Yeah, I think it's a rivalry, and I'm glad that it is a rivalry. It's good. It's 2 comparable programs, and the record is just 20-14-1. I think that's good. The one coming up this weekend is also a rivalry. John, what do you make of the Tigers' 3-game winning streak?
Oh, I mean, I guess you have to credit Tyler, right? I mean, he's the one that spearheaded this thing for the Tigers. But no, I mean, I've watched them here and there a little bit, over the last few games, and they've taken advantage of opportunities. I thought there was a lot of opportunity for North Carolina to win that game, and it didn't take control of it. Notre Dame, same way. Clemson's played a lot better, but they've taken advantage of some missed opportunities by the other team as well. So, I mean, this is a team that South Carolina should be very competitive with this weekend, regardless of the fact that Clemson seems to be playing a lot better. They're not a infallible group. They don't have the playmaker at quarterback from a consistency standpoint. They don't have the same caliber of playmakers at wide receiver. That's not to say that these guys aren't good, that Cade Klubnik isn't good, and that this group of wideouts that they have aren't good. They're just not to Clemson's typical caliber. And I don't think I'm breaking any news by saying that. So this is one that I think should be really, really competitive on Saturday.
Hey guys, I don't know if y'all realize this or not, but in the last 5 ACC games that North Carolina has played, that's with wins over Miami and Duke and losses against Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Clemson, they have given up 37 points per game. So kind of same old North Carolina defense after they got off to a nice start against our Gamecocks, App State, Minnesota, Pitt, Syracuse. I mean, but they really, at that point in time, it was a debacle for the Gamecocks. All those other teams, Minnesota, not a good offensive team. Pitt, not a good offensive team. Syracuse, not a good offense. So it was really all hogwash. And then once they started playing some people that could score a little bit, they can't stop anybody again.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson, Clemson got after him pretty good. I mean, look, of the 3 wins Clemson's had, Notre Dame's the most impressive one. And because Notre Dame had some advantages going into that one that would have been problematic, especially on the line of scrimmage. And heck, I think Notre Dame went down the field in that one. They got up 3-0. They said this is going to be an easy day because we're Notre freaking Dame, and they're not well coached. I'll just be honest. Marcus Freeman has a lot of coaching. He's got to get better at coaching. And I'm not. Clemson won the game. Don't get me. I'm not making excuses for the Irish, but Clemson got up off the mat. Maffa runs crazy. They didn't turn it over, and they're up 24-6 where Notre Dame had to catch a break. That's all well and good. That's also a home game. All 3 of the Clemson's been at home just like South Carolina has, and we all know from going to games there through the years, it's a tough place to play. I mean, it's loud. They get loud and proud and obnoxious just like everybody else. So. It's a little different, and you know you nailed it on the head. I'm not trying to downplay their win over North Carolina. I'm just saying, you know, that's there's always context to everything. There's always context to everything. At the same time, you look at South Carolina and say Jacksonville State, Vandy, Kentucky. Wow, bravo, you know, on that end.
Clearly,
but I don't think. It isn't like Clemson all of a sudden. It's not like Clemson in 2003 when they came to town and whipped Carolina pretty good with a bowl on the line. When they had beaten Florida State and all that good. Florida State was 3rd in the country and really gotten up off the mat. I think this is just them getting a little better. And they if they do not turn the ball over, they're tough to beat. If they do turn the ball over, they usually get beat. And they've had an issue with that this year. That's what it all comes down to for Clemson. Luckily for the Gamecocks, they're starting to get turnovers all of a sudden. After first, 8 games, very little.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be a key too, John. What do you think with the turnover battle?
9 in 3 games.
Yeah, it's a good total. I mean, it's what South Carolina's built their defense on the last couple of years coming into this. I mean, they've been very opportunistic. They play a style that kind of lends themselves to turnovers, and they practice the kind of things that you can to force them. So, you know, it's all kind of come to fruition here the last couple of weeks. And, you know, but these teams, at least Vandy and Jacksonville State, have been known to be turnover teams as well. And Leary has had a lot of turnover-worthy plays over the course of the year that South Carolina was able to take maybe more advantage of than maybe some other teams have. So, but Clemson has been vulnerable to those as well. You know, they've stopped a lot of drives, especially in the red zone with fumbles. And you know, South Carolina's done a decent job of creating those turnovers here lately. So, you know, maybe that'll all come together. As you said, it could be a very big talking point at the end of this one.
Yeah, 20 turnovers. Clemson has lost 13 fumbles this year in 11 games. That is a lot.
Bonkers.
And they've thrown 7 picks as well. John, if Spencer Rattler runs out there on Saturday and beats these guys again, what does that do for him? I mean, passing yardage records and things like that aside. That would be his final game at Williams-Brice Stadium, more than likely. When we look back at Spencer Rattler, if this happens, where is he? Where do Gamecock fans see him?
I mean, he's the most talented quarterback to come through here, in my opinion, right? I mean, JC will, I'm sure, have something to say about that one. I mean, I think Connor Shaw is the best college quarterback that South Carolina's had, but, you know, in terms of just sheer talent and ability, I mean, I think Spencer's the best guy, and if you can beat Clemson twice, I mean, that's certainly going to win him a lot of favor going forward. I mean, South Carolina is going to be able to kind of you know, hang their hat on Spencer and Spencer on South Carolina too, because, you know, I think I said here last week, like, South Carolina's been you know, Spencer's been really good to South Carolina, but South Carolina's been really good to Spencer as well. So, you know, I think that there's been great you know, camaraderie there for the two sides. So I mean, I think that especially with a big win this week and with Spencer potentially being a high draft pick, 2nd round, maybe 3rd round, and getting a shot in the NFL, like, you know, Connor Shaw played a little bit. When's the last time South Carolina had a good NFL quarterback? I mean, Anthony Wright was on some rosters, but like in terms of going out there and winning a couple, like who am I missing?
Nobody.
Right
Right,
had the best
I didn't-
career.
Right.
The last one that got drafted was Todd Ellis, and there were 12 rounds, or there were more rounds in the draft that year. So
Yeah, like Spencer's going to have a chance, and I think you add all of it together. His talent. If he beats Clemson this week, the ability to beat Clemson, the fact that he's going to have an NFL opportunity. I mean, he's going to be looked on with quite a bit of favor.
All right, this is just for y'all to. And John, we got to get some basketball in here, man, and then we got to get you out of here because it's lunchtime. We're throwing you off today, being an hour late. If Carolina wins on Saturday, if they beat the Tigers for the second year in a row, that would put them at 6-6. Clemson would fall to 7-5. That's a one-loss differential or one-win differential in the two records. Again, it'd be the second straight win for Carolina in the series. The Tigers, for the first time, and I don't even know how long, I think since 2010, would have lost 5 or more games in a year. The Gamecocks have scooped up every bit of talent in the state of South Carolina. Clemson does not have one commitment in the Palmetto State in the 2024 class. Would a victory tell? Could we go as far as to say something bold like whoever wins this game will kind of show you the trajectory of both of these programs? One goes one way, one goes the other. Is that too bold of a statement? How would you view something like that?
I think so. That's a pretty hot take there, and I'm not really a hot take artist, so I would stay away from that personally. Clemson won 7 in a row, and to think that something's turned off of 2, I can't make that leap. Even though Shane Beamer would have had 2 in his 3-year career when he didn't really have a shot in that first season at all. And really even being competitive, that would be way too that'd be too far of a jump for me. Now it's a nice little trend that you have going because you will have shown that you can beat those guys. You will have shown that you can out recruit some of those guys, and for some of those top players, and you're bringing in a really good recruiting class and really shoring up some weaknesses that you have, especially when it comes to offensive line with what you're doing in recruiting. So you can point that you really like the trajectory of your program. I don't know that you can point to it and say that South Carolina's or that Clemson's going down because South Carolina's going up. I can't quite get to that point, but you should really feel good about what you're doing if you're South Carolina and Shane Beamer if you can ultimately pull this one off.
Yeah,
that's how they'll recruit, isn't it, JC?
It's closing the gap. I mean, is what
Yeah.
there's been a gap.
Oh,
I mean, it's closing the gap. But
there's no doubt.
But I mean, it takes a while, And another thing you have to keep in mind: Clemson still recruits really well. Who knows what they're going to do about getting in the portal and NIL and all that? My guess is they'll reluctantly do it because they don't want to lose 4 games a year like they've been. They've got elite talent, NFL guys all over the field. They're good. I mean, they're not. This is a down year for them, but keep in mind they're also in the ACC.
Is that?
They don't.
Hold on a second. Is that the real Kelsey Corals in our Nana Sports chat box today? Because if it is, and he's saying Carolina goes by 14, then that's it. We'll make our picks today, and let's get the hell out of here.
A lot of those teams, man. Yeah, Kelsey
right now,
the pride of Greenwood.
Yeah,
I remember meeting Kelsey when he was a sophomore. By the way, he's our junior at Greenwood High School. So shout out if you're the real Kelsey.
If that's you, apologies if you think we're doubting whether it's really you. But there's a lot of weirdos out there that like to imitate people for whatever reason in some of these social media things. So
dude, I swear to God, yeah.
I remember going up for his signing ceremony, either signing ceremony or commitment ceremony, one of the two.
Yeah,
Kelsey Corals would probably like to play against this Clemson offense this weekend.
He was a year behind Sam Montgomery, who's probably one of the more interesting recruit personalities I've ever dealt with, and DJ Swearinger was on that team. So they had Greenwood had DJ Swearinger, Sam Montgomery, and Kelsey Corals all at the same time. And of course, Kelsey's dad was an All-American, I think, offensive line here. Buddy Quarles. So he's a Gamecock legacy
Yeah.
through and through. So basketball, you guys got some basketball talk? Because I want to.
Well, they did win the tournament this weekend. I figure we
Saw
should
it.
at least mention them. They're 5-0 to open the season here, John, for the first time since they went to the Final Four when they went out there to Arizona. And here, I'm going to bring this up again. I'm going to patent this, so nobody steal this from me if you don't mind. Attack and answer. Attack and answer. That's what they do. They attack, and every time somebody attacks them, they answer. And that lead shrunk from 11-2 yesterday, John. And we've watched that happen a lot around here over the years, and they end up getting beat. And you go, why? You know why? Who'd they lose to? Why? We've seen it, right? They got down to 2, no problem. BJ Mack, Jacoby Wright, just run down the floor, hit a couple jumpers, and then give you some cushion. So, look, 3 of their first 5 wins, neutral site victories. Probably got some quad 2s in there, some nice wins early in the year. It's very, very impressive start for Lamont in year 2.
Yeah, it's not a challenging non-conference schedule for South Carolina this year by and large, but that one last night was a good one, and the Virginia Tech was a good one. But yeah, it was 11-point lead cut down to 2 with 5:24 left in the game, and BJ Mack scores 10 in that final 5:42. I mean, that's solid right there. That was making free throws. That was making a 3-pointer. That was getting a couple of bully points in the lane. Jacoby Wright came through with a couple of big baskets after that deficit was cut to 2 by Grand Canyon. I mean, those were some guys who really stepped up in big moments. And I thought South Carolina did a great job of closing that game out. They were able to break pressure. They were able to make free throws. They were able to make passes. They played good defense, and it was exactly what you want a basketball game to look like in terms of how you close that thing out. So it was an impressive day all the way around, an impressive game all the way around. I thought from South Carolina when they had some stretches in the first half when they didn't score, but were still able to kind of manage things. They went, it was a little over 5 minutes, and then actually close to 5.5 minutes. And then right about 4 minutes in the first half of stretches without scoring, and still took a 1-point lead into halftime. So, that was a couple of long stretches with a few too many turnovers, a couple of missed shots, a couple of dumb things, but you're able to kind of manage your way through it, and then played a great second half. So, only 1 turnover in the second half. That's been an issue for South Carolina this year. A little bit is if we're nitpicking is turning the ball over a little bit too much, and played a really clean second half overall. So I thought it was a really good day.
11-0 men, women football in the month of November. 11-0. Those 3 programs in Columbia have a combined undefeated record. 45 fouls called in the game last night. At times it was difficult to understand how you even qualify yourself as an official if you're calling fouls when people don't touch each other. But I guess somebody else have to sort through all that, John. So I know
I stayed up on Friday night to watch the game against DePaul, and there were 50 foul calls on a game that tipped off after midnight.
It was.
You're not lying, dude. I was up with you. I mean, I was up too, and I was like,
too.
I wanted to crawl through the TV and choke somebody out.
Yeah,
the refs.
I don't know where all these guys came from out there, but there is zero reason to play 2 basketball games and have a combined 95 fouls called in those 2. That's ridiculous.
They like seeing themselves on TV.
Well, there's nobody watching at 2 a.m. I mean, I'm not exactly sure who they thought they were showing off to.
Well, there was a I mean, that wasn't even a Frank Martin coach team either, where they're just playing bully defense the entire time. I mean, they were playing hard defense, South Carolina was, but it wasn't Frank Martin defense in terms of his style and how they do things, and which lends itself to a few more fouls than most. But man, that was tough. That was tough.
It was pretty mind-boggling. I'll say this, we'll get you out of here on this. I noticed something yesterday with the social media accounts of Gamecock basketball, and I can't remember the last time I've seen this, but it's got a football vibe to it. They're begging the fans, come watch us play. sell it out next week against Notre Dame. We're pretty good. Come watch us play, guys. They're a confident group, and they're a fun group to watch, and they're kind of embracing this thing. I feel like, generally they're not good enough around here to try to beat their chest or anything. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but it's like, well, let's see how we're going to do before people show up. And this group isn't doing that. Like, John, they're begging people, please come watch us play. We can play. We're good. Fill it up. Hats off to Lamont and his group for embracing that. And I sure as hell hope a week from tomorrow night that it's sold out at Colonial Life Arena. They're asking for it against Notre Dame. That's the next game they play. I hope they get it.
Yeah, and they've liked this group for a long time, and I think that's why Lamont Paris was so ticked off at being picked last in the SEC. Like, usually you just kind of shrug your shoulders and kind of let it go because it is what it is. But he was genuinely upset about being picked last and took it personally. And the player said the players should take it personally. And, they went from really, really young last year to really, really old this year. And that's extremely helpful. But they also went to much more talented across the board. They may not have Gigi Jackson or a player of that skill set, but they got some darn good players over there, and they play fun basketball to watch too. I mean, they make shots. They have a ton of guys making shots. It's not just one or two who can really fill it up.
They all
You've got scorers everywhere on the court.
That is a welcome development after years and years of not being able to throw it in the ocean. A lot of the teams that Frank had, and before Frank too. I mean, this is not. I've often wondered. Even the women hadn't shot it that well till this year. I kind of got to the point, John. I was wondering about the rims and at the CLA. But then I realized, well, other teams could come in here and shoot 70% of the field, so it's not that, Anyway,
they don't just put the lid on it for the home team. You gotta be able to shoot it. John, we'll let you run on that note. First and foremost, happy Thanksgiving. I have no idea what your plans are on Thanksgiving Day, but whatever it is, I hope you get a day off because you're the hardest working dude we know in this industry. Thanks for everything you do, man.
Two things. I'll, after giving y'all a hard time of taking Labor Day off, I think y'all can take Thanksgiving off. That one seems fair. Friday too. Are y'all going to take Friday off?
We'll be on the air.
No, we're doing Black Friday. I think we did it. We took Friday off last year, but it was just me and Phil.
Are you going to stay at 3 hours? Or are you going to go from 11 to 1? Stay at 3? Okay.
We're a 24-hour marathon on Friday, John. Right up to kickoff. No,
we should like me and Teddy Hefner did that one time. I was part of Teddy Hefner's Carolina Clemson marathon. At
that sounds awful.
Doc's Barbecue, man. 1 year was at Doc's Barbecue.
Oh, that sounds great.
1 year it was at Flying Saucer. 1 year was at Doc's Barbecue. But gosh, we went like 7 to 7 the whole day marathon. So.
That and I love the Arizona tip-off trophy, the championship belt. I thought that was great. Thought that was unique. Why not, right?
I mean,
like that. I thought that was incredible. Well done, those guys.
Yeah,
so appreciate you guys having me. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, we're thankful
Thanks,
for you.
John. I'll hit you up soon, man. See you.
There you go. Great, John Whittle. Time for a